Hello, I have this lovely picture of this little leafy branch that I'm going to share with you today, and we're going to kind of look at it. I'm going to show you a little trick about how you can use a printout to help you get started drawing something. So this is a photo that I took of a leaf. You can see I just printed it on printer paper, and what I did was I flipped it over and taped it to a window so that the light would shine through. You can see if I take my light here and put it underneath, you can see that it totally shines through. So this is the back side of the paper, but we can see through with that light. So I flipped it over and I did a little bit of tracing. I traced the general way the stem goes and then all the little stems that come off it, and I traced the actual leaves here. But because we're artists and sometimes we like to do a little artist interpretation, I've also done some little variations on different ways that we could stylize these leaves. So we could do them exactly as they occur in nature, and we could draw all of these little lines, or we can make very simple little arch-shaped leaves, or we could do little heart-shaped leaves if you want to do something really cutesy, or if you want to do a nature drawing but you like hearts, you want to incorporate them. And then down here I kind of traced the leaves that existed, but they all look like little bushes. So that's another thing. If you like to make that shape, you could do that all the way down. I'm going to show you with this particular type of leaf, and then you can decide if you want to go in another direction. So the first thing I'm going to do here, I haven't taped my paper because I'm drawing and I might want to turn it. So the first thing I'm going to do here is kind of draw the direction my stem's going to go. So that is that. And then I'm going to come down because it's thicker at the bottom. So I'm going to come down and just make it a little bit thicker at the bottom. So now it just kind of looks like the very center of that stem. And when I looked at the way the individual branches came off of this stem, they don't meet in the middle, they alternate. So that's what I'm going to do, I think, with my branches. And they're very large at the bottom, and they don't just come straight out. They kind of go, maybe are a little bit curvy. So we can do that if we want. So I'm going to do some little branches with the thought that they're going to get shorter as we go up toward the top. So these long ones at the bottom are fine, but I'm going to have them get a little bit shorter as I go up. Oh, that one can still be long. And then they're still just kind of getting a little shorter. And I'm not going exactly per what I see here. I'm just using it as my inspiration. And I'm just making these little branches that are alternating and coming off of the main one. And they're getting very short and cute as we get here toward the end and we have our last little branch. So now I've got the base of my branch totally done. I'm loving it. I think it's adorable. What I'm going to do now is switch it over to Sharpie. You can keep working in pencil if you'd like to, but this is the part that I thought I might need to erase. But now I know I'm comfortable with it and I'm not going to need to erase. So I am just going to start adding all of my little extras in Sharpie. So I'm going to start at the very top, and I think I'm going to do this kind of leaf. But if you want to do a different shape, you absolutely can. I'm going to do just the little arched leaves. So there's one. And then it's going to be helpful for me if I turn my paper. So I'm going to have a lot of little arched leaves. So there's one edge. And then there's the next edge. So that is my first little leaf. The next one is here. So it's gonna come off like this. So I'm gonna put some little space between these leaves, and I'm gonna try to make them smaller as I go toward the end. And then the end is just gonna have a little round one. They can get a little bigger as we get toward the edge. So that is branch number 2. And then I'll work on this little branch right here. So I'm gonna put my end leaf and then just draw all these little lines that are so happy for my hand to draw. And they can get larger as you get toward the bottom if you want to. I guess I can go ahead and draw my main stem in marker. It's coming right down on the same place that I did in pencil. And you can see I'm not exactly specifically going over the same place, but that's okay. I can always go back and erase that pencil. So now I'm going to trace this branch, and I'm going to remember that these can be a little bit larger. And then as they get toward the end, they can get a little bit smaller. And then I just put one on the end because why not? It's what I'm doing. All right. And then we'll go for this one, and you just repeat this all the way down. I remembered to make them a little bit smaller. That kind of looks like the back of a stegosaurus. All right, and then this is going to be little. There we go, and I'll put one on the end, just for fun. And then I'll go over to my next little branch. And this one, since we're getting bigger, I think I'm going to really try to make these a little bit larger, a little bit longer. So I'm just making this very similar shape. It's like a tall rainbow, just an arch. And I'm going to make them a little bit smaller as I get toward the end. And I'll do the same thing up top. Now here, because there's a branch in the way, we can't see the whole leaf. So we're just going to draw the part of it that we might be able to see. And you can make your leaves where they are directly across from each other like this, or you can stagger them. This is just how mine happens to be working out. All right, so there's that little branch. And then I'm going to move on to this one. And I'm starting with the edge one because I can do whatever I want, right? just kind of going back and forth, getting a little bit bigger as I go down the way. It's funny, my hand is like, no, we're making these all a uniform size. I don't want to make these any bigger, but my brain wants to make them bigger. So that's what we're gonna do. So it's getting a little bit bigger as I get toward the base. And you can see that what I'm making doesn't look exactly like this. It's just inspired by this shape. So you don't always have to make your drawing specifically like nature did it. You can always go your own way and just kind of make up your own little thing. All right, so let's give this one a little leaf at the end, and then we'll start making all of these. And I know I'm getting toward the bottom, so I'm trying to make these a little bit fatter and a little bit longer. I love the way this is looking. These are making me super happy. And then I'm going to turn my paper because I just prefer to draw this way. You might have a way that you prefer to draw also, and you can always turn your paper, just do whatever makes it comfortable for your hand to make these lines the way that your brain wants to make them. So they're getting bigger. Things are going according to plan. And let's do this one. You can see I decided to go a little bit wider than where my pencil was. You can always make those decisions as you're making your piece of art. You don't have to know at the very beginning with your pencil drawing. That's not written in stone. It's pencil. It's not marker. All right, so I need to start getting smaller as I get toward the end here. And then I'm gonna flip it around so I can do this the way that is easiest for me. That's fun how this has started to take on a little bit of heart shape. I like that. All right, here we go with this one. Since it's going right off the page, it doesn't even fit because it's kind of big. All right, what am I doing here? Let's do this whole row. Going off the page. That's fine. All right, then I'm going to turn so that I can do the other half. I'm trying to keep these kind of the same size as the ones that are on the other side. It's all varied, and that's absolutely fine in this kind of art. All right. So I just have 3 branches left, and I'm gonna just do the same thing that I've been doing. So I've got one on the end, and then because I know we're getting bigger with these leaves. I'm trying to get bigger with my little leaves. And then I'm going to get a little bit smaller as I get to the edge. There we go. That's cute. I just love this little pattern work so much. This makes my brain incredibly happy. So I'm going off the page also with that one. And then these will be a little bit bigger. I'm drawing the direction my hand is not fond of drawing. Okay. There's that one. And then I think I'm going to bring this one down a little bit lower than where I originally drew it, because then I will have room for big leaves. So now this one can have larger leaves. Since it's the lowest one we see here, it should have the biggest leaves in my little plant kingdom. So I'm trying to get smaller as I get to the end here. And they're not super small, but that's okay, because this is the big leaf. It can be a little bit larger. So I'm just going to draw these leaves. And I'm going to try to get larger as we get toward the bottom. And if that means they go off the page, super duper okay with that. Like that. And these, oh, that one didn't fit. Maybe the next one will fit. Yeah, there we go. But it's okay to go off that page. You don't have to stay in the page with your whole thing. All right. So next we can look at it and we can think, this is my favorite part, because I start making up little rules. Like every branch we did, we put little leaves on it. So now I'm going to make up a rule that at the end of every leaf, I'm going to put a dot. So I'm just going to come and I'm going to be like, dot, dot, if there's room, dot. And this just makes it decorative and fun and gives you more little pattern to draw. And of course, we wouldn't see anything in nature that has lovely little dots floating above it. But because this is 2 dimensions and this is our art, we can really just make it our own and do whatever we'd like. This reminds me of a lot of different patterns you see in folk art. It's a lot of the pretty dots and it's all colorful. My dots are not all perfectly round, but I'm not letting that stop me. I am putting more and more dots. And remember, we're just going to erase this pencil later when the ink from my marker is dry. So it's all right if those lines are in there. I'm just going to ignore them for now, as best I can. So I'm just adding these dots, and they can get smaller as you move to your smaller leaves. or they can stay the same size. It depends on what you think looks the best for your art. So see how that's just adding a fun little design aesthetic to our overall piece? I like it. So my dots are gonna start getting a little smaller as I move up. Because my leaves are getting smaller. I tell you what, there is nothing I love more than on a cool morning, if you're in a place where there are a lot of trees or flowers, just walking around looking at them and thinking about how they're all constructed, kind of how they're all a little bit different, how their colors are all different, their shapes are all different, but they're so beautiful all together. They just make such a beautiful palette for nature. All right, dots everywhere. You get a dot, and you get a dot. Sometimes I like to turn my paper because I don't want to get my hand oils on the paper if I know I'm going to be working with watercolor later, because that can make the paint not want to stick to your paper. And that is not what we want. All right, so I just have a few more little branches to go. This is looking really great. I like it. And I'm looking over here, these dots were a little bit bigger, so maybe I'm going to make these dots also larger. And then I'll start getting back to my dots that are a little bit bigger. Because why? Because my leaves are bigger. And you can do any number of things to each of these leaves. If you really want this to take up a lot of time, or you want it to be very involved, you can kind of just make up a new little rule. Like maybe I'm going to put a line in the middle of each leaf, and then maybe I'm going to color half of each leaf black. I'm not going to do that on this one, but you can feel free, if that's where your creativity is taking you today, to go ahead and do that. I support you 100%. And if you do something and you think, oh, that does not look good, if you do it to every single leaf, it really will, surprisingly, look good. You'll be sort of happier than you thought you could be with your piece of art. And what's nice about this is we haven't really done any shapes that are super complicated, right? All we did was we made some lines and some arches and some dots. But the way we've put it together is just really looking great. So we can go through and we can do any number of other things to this leaf, or if you are ready, you can go ahead and color it. I'm not sure what I want to do. I might put some pattern in the leaf. Let's see. If I do, I'll speed it up so you don't have to watch me painstakingly make every single little mark. All right, let's see. I'm gonna split each one in half. Now it's sort of starting to look a little bit like an optical illusion. That's fun. So splitting them in half, I love the way this looks. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep doing it to each one. So that's my new rule, a line down the middle of each leaf. And this one is a lot faster. Maybe I'm not gonna speed it up. Maybe I'm just gonna chat you right through this. And you can think of other things to do to the leaves. Like you could make horizontal lines on them. They sort of look like bunny ears. So I'll just move on to my next branch. Put my dots in. So now moving on to the lines. And it gets easier with these tiny ones because you don't have to make your line very long. They're little bitty. I just enjoy that with each little thing I add to these leaves, they are taking on more and more personality. All right, these are tiny, so even if you can't see the line, I like to always sort of just suggest that I've tried to put a line in there. And then I think it reads a little nicer. So now look at this half and how fun that looks, and this half and how boring that looks. Or maybe you like it. It's okay if you do. I like it with more pattern. I am a more is more person. Famously, I like to do more rather than less. It's just a total good time for me. So I hope that you're enjoying this. I want you to know that you've been making little lines and dots for about 25 minutes now, and I hope that it is just really chilling your brain out. When I look for music to listen to when I'm trying to make these videos sort of relaxing for you, I always look up spa music or relaxation or meditation music. I just like when it's very relaxy like this. And because I know I'm going to be talking over it, I try to find ones that don't have words or singing in them, just so that I don't have too much going on here. So I'm splitting each of these with the line. All right, 2 more little branches left, and then we're done. And I'm just working on this repetitive motion. Alright, I'm down to my last little leaf. So it's going to get its lines. Sometimes I'll look back and there's one that I've skipped. And sometimes I don't notice it until I have like framed something and put it on the wall. All right, so this is great. It's looking so good. If you want to put some sort of pattern up here, you absolutely can. I think I'm gonna skip that and I'm just gonna finish mine up and I'm gonna paint it like this. Don't forget to sign it. Oh, I almost forgot. I always like to sign it while I'm still working in my Sharpie. That way I can just paint right over it and my signature is there. All right, I can't wait to see what you decide to do with coloring this, or if you decide to make up any other little rules. I'm very looking forward to that. I'm gonna go ahead and erase my pencil lines so that we have just this crispy little Sharpie left. And I like to use, this is a polymer eraser. It's a little gentler on the paper than your regular old rubber erasers. There's a brand called Moo that I love because you don't have all this shrapnel that you have to brush off from your eraser. It just erases in one big clumpy line. You can also use what's called a kneadable eraser. And you don't even have to rub that over the paper. You can just kind of be very gentle. But this paper is thick enough. It can take a little bit of friction. Okay. All right, so now it's ready to paint.